What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben and welcome back to the bench, guys, for another episode of our D520 here on Ben Builds with Joe. Today we're going to go ahead and hopefully fix up a couple of seams, and we're going to go ahead and start doing the camo, the nose, and the tail. We got to get some painting done today. Now overall, most of the seams look pretty nice. I have a couple of areas I want to go ahead and touch up, such as the underside of the fuselage and the very top, very front of the nose. Has to be sanded down and covered a bit more. Everything else looks okay. Just kind of give it an overall general sanding. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our first time lapse, guys. I want to go ahead and finalize some of these seams using some super glue, then going ahead and coming back through, sanding them down with my jeweler files. And then I want to go ahead and just kind of reapply some primer over all these areas. Just kind of get everything generally all spiffied up, ready for paint. So let's go ahead and dive on in, guys. Let's get this party started. All right, everybody, we are back, and this aircraft is coming right along, so we're going to move over to our camouflage. Now, for the undersurface of the aircraft, we're going to be using this USAF Medium Grey. Nice color to use for the undersurface. And then for the top different three-tone camo, we're going to use this Russian AMT blue. And then we're going to follow it up with a little bit of our olive drab right here. And then we're going to follow that up with some of our pale brown. These are all Vallejo colors, and I actually have a manual that talks a little bit about what colors to use, and this is what Vallejo recommends. So we're going to go ahead and just run with it. But of course, before we go ahead and get going with any of our paints, such as, the medium gray, we're going to be going ahead and pre-shading with NATO Black. That's going to be perfectly fine. Then we'll go ahead and mix down a very thin color of all of our different paints. So let's go ahead and jump into our second time lapse. Let's start doing some pre-shade, get that camo done, get all the colors on, and see how we do. As you can see, we have a pretty nice looking D.520. All of the camouflage colors are nicely airbrushed on. I went ahead and I freehanded all of the camo lines. Most of the references I saw didn't really show really harsh demarcation lines between the different camo colors, so I just kind of left it up to my own freehand. I think it looks okay. I know there was a note here on my instructions that did state that the camouflage for the D.520s varied wildly, so I just kind of based it loosely off of what Tamiya had shown and what the Aeromaster's decals had shown as well. So now we're going to go ahead and move over here to some additional painting. Now we're going to have to go ahead and do a little bit of masking. Now the version I'm doing is yellow 28. This is going to have a yellow and red striped tail and a yellow cowling. In order to do that, I want to go ahead and use some Tamiya tape and some frog tape. We're going to go ahead and mask off the demarcation line between the yellow and red tail, and then of course the yellow lower cowling. I'm going to go ahead and have to overcoat both the tail and the cowling with a white primer. And that's going to hopefully allow me to come in and then airbrush all of my colors over top of that, and it should give it a really nice appearance. Some very bright and vibrant colors. At least, well, that's my hope. So let's go ahead and just continue masking all these parts off, and then we should have a good position to go ahead and start priming. Now for the cowling, we're going to be using some very thin strips of Tamiya tape to go ahead and just get the basic outlines. Then once I have that more or less squared away, we can come in with some blue painter's tape or some frog tape or even Tamiya tape and cover over all the areas surrounding these masks. Now, of course, I want to be really careful here and cover all the areas that might be susceptible to overspray. So we're going to try to make it as clean as possible. Now, in terms of paint, guys, we're going to start off with some Stalnares white primer. As I mentioned before, that's going to give us a very nice even surface for both the tail surfaces, and the lower portion of the nose. Then we're going to come back once that's dry, and we're going to overcoat the entire tail with Vallejo red. Once that is dry, we're going to take our Tamiya 6mm tape, and we're going to come in and we're going to mask off all of the areas that are supposed to remain red. 6mm is about the same width as what we have in our decals, so we should be good there. Once that is all dried, then we can come back with, again, some Stalnares white primer. That should go ahead and cover up all the rest of the red, and it should give us a nice base to go ahead and airbrush our aqueous yellow. After that is done, guys, all we have left to do is unmask, and hopefully if my lines hold and if my masks are all right, we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and jump into our last time lapse, guys. Let's get this tail and the nose cone all painted up. Let's see what we can do. All right, everybody, we are back, and as you can see, we have our tail and our lower portion of cowling all nicely painted up. The back section right here on the rudder, I didn't really worry too much about that because I'm going to be using a decal, but I do want to come back next time and overcoat that rudder section with some primer. I'm going to be using, again, just like I did before, the white Styrene primer. That should give us a really nice canvas to go ahead and apply those decals on. We shouldn't have any yellow or red showing through the actual decal itself, which can happen sometimes on different brands of decals. Now, for the front of the nose, we have that just lower portion of cowling painted with that yellow, just as our instructions have shown us. That was not difficult to do, really. We are going to have to go ahead and let that kind of cure, and then we can come back and we can overcoat the entire aircraft in future. And that really is it, guys. I don't think there's any much more to do today. We're going to go ahead and let this cure. I think we are in a really good position, though. This is looking pretty fun. I've never tried anything like this striped red and yellow, and I think the way I did it, where I just kind of layered the different colors on top of each other, worked out decently. I kept my paint very, very thin so I wouldn't have any noticeable edges to each of those stripes. So luckily that worked out, and I think we are ready to go ahead and let this fully cure. We'll be back next episode, overcoat everything with future, take care of any other issues, and then finally decal it. So until our next episode, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to head on over to Joe's channel. He's an awesome builder, great guy. Got a couple of new videos up, so make sure to go check those out. But anyway, until then, you know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool, and we'll see you back here on episode number 9 for Ben Builds with Joe and our Tamiya D520. Thanks so much, everybody. We will see you soon.